Thanks very much. So just to sort of be completely clear, what I'm going to talk about today is VR for fundraising, but you know, as Tobias said, we're still developing it, so it's something that's incredibly new. And what I thought I'd do, first of all, is talk about you know, VR for good in general, what all the NGOs are doing. And then I wanted to talk specifically about a film that I've made, just in case anybody thinks that could be interesting. So a little bit about me. I am a producer-director. Actually, I am a freelancer. At the moment, I'm working for Save the Children, managing their film unit. But that's just a 6-month stint that I'm doing with them. So my background is in journalism, and I've been working for 15 years making films and skipping, as you can see, in Malawi. And my speciality is working in really tough environments. So you sort of fly into a country like Pakistan, and then you've got to try and find a story and then tell the story. And we're always looking for sort of innovative and creative ways of telling that story, so that, you know, it's a very competitive market out there for NGOs. So just quickly, I don't know how much everybody knows, but I thought I'll just quickly give you a little summary. Really, the sort of the organisation at the vanguard of charity VR work is the UN. I don't know if any of you've watched the UN VR app, but it's really excellent, actually. And they kicked off with Clouds over Sidra, which was really revolutionary for us. You know, it was described, I think, by Chris Milk, who was one of the directors, as an empathy machine, because suddenly, as a charity, you could actually step into the world of the people that we're often talking about, as opposed to just looking through the window, which is how we sort of think about normal 2D films. But now, 2 years on, it's just absolutely boomed in the charity world, and in all sorts of different ways. So it's not just international NGOs. You've got, obviously, the BBC. I'm sure some of you heard Dan Tucker's speech yesterday. He was talking about Easter Rising. It's a really brilliant use of storytelling for sort of history and education. The next one is a guy who's got multiple sclerosis, and they filmed somebody in VR surfing. He used to be a champion surfer, and now he's sort of confined to a wheelchair, and suddenly he's able to sort of look at or imagine that he's actually surfing again. So they then filmed this, and it was used as a fundraising film. So really, really interesting and you know, very emotional. The other one in the corner is WaterAid. They did a really good marketing campaign around their film called Aftershock. And then this one here, which is about what it's like to have autism. It's called Too Much Information. So just quickly, I thought I'd do a few things of the pros and cons. So the cons about VR for charities, obviously, is that it's incredibly expensive, much more expensive than a regular film. You know, just to give you an idea, like if I was to go, you know, filming somewhere like Sierra Leone, which I did later, you'll see later on, that might cost you, you know, £10,000, and you make a really beautiful film with really lovely cameras. Whereas VR, really, to have a good film, if you're going abroad, it would cost you between 100 and 250,000, depending on who you ask. So the other problem that we have, like as Tobias was saying, still, you know, we've got all these kind of exciting new products like Daydream. We can use the gear, which suddenly makes it all affordable, but still, they're all specific to the phones, which makes it, from a sort of your average everyday user, just makes it a bit more difficult, really, to access. So I've got an iPhone, and still, you know, for me, it was really difficult to decide, what do I buy? Do I get a new Samsung phone? Do I get a Google phone? What do I do? So I think that sort of stops the sort of spread of VR in terms of charity outreach. And again, the platforms, it's all still developing. We don't quite know where to show our films. So do we put it on the Oculus app? Do we just provide downloads for people to download it directly onto their phones? You know, there isn't, YouTube just is a bit clunky on when you look at it on a gear, for example. So it's just not really great. And then we did have Save the Children has made 3 VR films, actually. And we were going to put them all on VRideo, which was this great sort of channel hosting channel, and it shut down. It just didn't have enough content. So I'm sure this is going to happen quite a lot. You know, it's still developing. But reasons to be cheerful. As we said, you know, suddenly when you work in charity, you're always looking to try and create an emotional connection. And this has revolutionized it for us. Also, charities are in the mix. You know, we're all in this sort of nascent industry, and actually charities are there at the vanguard of some areas, like the UN, for example. So that's kind of exciting for us to be part of that. We found that VR and 360 on social media, it's kind of cool, but really isn't really generating any excitement or money, more to the point. And so what charities are finding, I think, more and more is that it's actually things like gala dinners, which raise a lot of money, like the Met Ball or Save the Children has probably 2 or 3 sort of gala dinners a year that are organised by people often external to Save the Children who want to help, who sort of are well connected. And they do raise a lot of money. And Plan International, who are the organisation I worked for, and I'll show you that film, or I'll describe that film to you later. And then the other thing that has really been exciting is actually face-to-face fundraising. So I don't know if any of you have sort of seen, I know that the UN have been out there, and Oxfam as well, where, you know, instead of just saying, oh, if you've got a minute, can you sign up to Save the Children, let's say, what they're doing is saying, hey, if you've got 2 minutes to just watch this film. So it's a bit different, a bit exciting, and this, I think, should be the UNICEF film, if you wouldn't mind playing it. So I'll just let it play a little bit. This is in, obviously, Auckland, New Zealand. They've got their little stall up. And then you can see people are they're just sort of stopping people in the street. I actually saw some UNICEF people outside Farringdon a couple of days ago, and it's freezing, but people were still sort of having a go because it's quite interesting. They don't quite know what it is. And so again, they were using Clouds over Sidra, which I know they found to be like their most successful film. So you can kind of see everybody's just like in the street watching it. So if you stop that, thank you. So what do we know so far? To be honest, it's really unknown. It's so new that I can't even give you statistics from Plan International or Save the Children. But what the UN as a whole have told us is that 1 in 6 people signed up having watched that film, which is double the normal amount. So, you know, that's quite extraordinary, really, for charities. It's really, really exciting that not only do they feel like they're actually telling or allowing other people to tell their own stories, but there is this connection happening which makes people act, which is what we obviously really want. And then on average, you know, it might take a fundraiser between 10 to 13 conversations to get a regular donor, but this is cut in half, again, when you use VR. At another event in Croatia, people were queuing up for 40 minutes to watch their film. I mean, that's really unheard of in the charity world, you know, and so for us, it's really exciting. So just one word of caution, when you're making a film, don't make it too hard-hitting. I think you've got to be a little bit aware that of the power of VR. So you don't really want it to be too emotional so that somebody's at this posh gala dinner and then they're absolutely devastated and weeping. That's just something to really bear in mind, that you've got to kind of tread this line. So the film that I made was for Plan International. It's an international children's rights charity, very similar to Save the Children, does similar sorts of things. They have a big focus on girls' rights. They've got a big girls' campaign, especially to get girls back into school. Often girls drop out around 12, 13 years old, adolescents. And they have this campaign called Because I Am a Girl. So they decided they wanted to have a VR film about girls, where that they could use at this gala dinner, and then beyond that. It needed to last beyond that because obviously it was a huge investment for them. They wanted to be able to sort of convey, you know, what it's like to walk in the shoes of a girl. It had to be real, so we didn't want to make it up. You know, we all have our ideas of what we think a girl in Sierra Leone might say, but actually it's much better if we hear it from her, and it's more authentic, obviously. They're very sort of specific about how they want girls to be portrayed. They don't want girls to be victims, saying, oh, please help me because I'm having a really terrible time. It's much more, you know, please don't stop me, or can you help me to get the barriers out of my way so that I can just get on and do what I really want to do. So that really appealed to me. I thought that was quite an exciting project. So I said yes. But although I'd been working in films for 20 odd years, I'd never made a VR film. So we contacted Surround Vision, who are a really fantastic VR company. They've been making VR for 5 or 6 years. They do a lot of work with Sky VR now. So really, they'd had a lot of experience, and they'd made this film before in Senegal. So we worked with them. This is where we went, Sierra Leone, West Africa. Incredibly poor, probably one of the poorest countries in the world. And we went to a place up right in the corner called Kailaun, which is right on the border with Guinea and Liberia. And I don't know if you remember, but that was the sort of center really of the sort of diamond wars. It also became the center of Ebola. So really, it's had a pretty tough time, Sierra Leone, and girls in particular have had a tough time. So 73% of girls don't finish their education. And then what Plan realized as well is that only 12% of teachers were women. So what they wanted to do with just one of their projects is to try and train up young women who'd maybe dropped out of school, so give them fast-track education and then allow them to then enter into teachers training college. Once you have female teachers, then hopefully they can act as role models for other girls. So 500 women are on this. This was the crew. We had 3 sort of producers from Surround Vision who did sound as well as worked the cameras, and then 1 drone operator from SkyEdge, somebody from Plan International, and me. And what was great about that was that because we were only there for 6 days, we had 2 teams working at the same time. So I might be directing 1 team on 1 shot, and while the other team were setting up. So it was really fantastic. So first of all, I just want to take you through the process of how we made the film. And first of all, we had to find our character. So we interviewed 8 young women just sitting in a room all together and just asked them to tell their story. And it's one of the things that is really incredible about being a journalist or a film director, is that you actually just walk into somebody's life and say to them, tell me about your life, and they just do. And so we had 8 women telling us their stories, which were about early marriage, the war, Ebola, female genital mutilation, and these were all reasons that they had dropped out of school. So we ended up choosing just 1 girl, or she was a young woman actually, called Mammy, and she was 23 years old. Basically, when she was 12, she had refused to have female genital cutting, and that meant that her family rejected her. She got thrown out on the street, and a whole sort of spiral of events happened after that. I won't tell you, you have to watch the film. So she was just this really compelling person, and she really sort of makes our film, and that's her standing on a bridge. So first of all, we'd done this sort of informal interview, just chatting with all the other girls, and then we had to sort of interview her on camera, and most importantly, it's the audio, actually. So we did that. Then I did a paper edit, and then I worked with her on the paper edit, so that it was incredibly important that what we said was actually her words. So we didn't want it to be something that I thought she ought to say. It had to come from her. And often when I do a 2D film, you sort of go and you interview somebody, and then you come home and you edit it. And of course, you have your kind of slant on what you think's important. Whereas this was really exciting because actually it was her sitting with me editing her own script. So we recorded it in this tiny, pokey little room, really, really hot, just both of us pouring in sweat, and with goats bleating in the background. Bit of a nightmare. So with the nature of the work that I do, you can't really plan your shots. I mean, you sort of know more or less what you want, but you can't actually plan them until you get there, because you don't know what you're going to see, you don't know what the story is. So you have to, sit down once you've worked out what she's going to say, and then plan our story. And this is her walking through the community. So we did this one shot where we had a zip wire coming from the corner over of that building all the way through here, and she walks and the camera follows her, and you get a really great shot of the whole community. One of the things that I loved about working with Surround Vision was that they sort of add a real dynamism into their shots. They do a lot of moving shots, which is quite, it's quite a risk to take, because lots of people feel a bit sick, obviously. So we had to really be careful about that and make sure they weren't too fast. This was just, I thought I'll just show you a couple of shots on how we did them. This is the opening shot where Mammy is on a boat, and you can see we've got our pole there that where the camera is basically here. So you have a lovely shot of her face, but then you can also look all around you and see this incredible scene of Sierra Leone. And the river was so gentle, even though it's a moving shot, it's actually really beautiful, and you kind of really feel like you're sitting in the boat with her. And then this is kind of how we did the moving shots. We used a 6-camera GoPro rig with a little fishing wire that one of the producers would literally wind in. We had lots of fun and games with that, as you can imagine. And it took a really, really long time, and this is why it took a long time. So one of the shots is in the playground. So would you mind just playing that? Thank you. And this is me trying to organize the kids in just one area. So, it is quite a crazy thing to do, and you can see the area behind is where we hid when we would say action, and then you'd start rolling. So this is just like one, as you can see, 2D. You can imagine then there's everybody, all these kids all around. It was incredibly stressful, but fun, and we got it in the end. And this is another shot that we did where we're in the market, and we had the 6-camera rig again. I think I've got it here, yeah. So there's the camera that we were using, or the rig we were using, sorry, with the 6 GoPros. And the camera that was facing Mammy was in real time, but the rest of them we had on time lapse. So it's a really cool effect, because it really made us feel, it's something you do anyway in 2D, but makes it seem like she's really alone. At that moment, she's talking all about how she's really lonely, and that she was rejected by her community. So that was just a really interesting experiment, but it really worked. And even the time lapse works as you're looking around in VR. And then we also had a couple of drone shots, which were quite fun, because with the bureaucracy in Sierra Leone, nobody really wanted to give us permission to use the drone. So we asked the army, and the army said, oh, ask the police, and would you play this one as well? So we just, in the end, said, oh, we're not really filming, we're just practicing. And we managed to get away with it. So this is like the final shot of the film, and you can see Mammy's just there, and the drone goes across there, and there we all are, and we have to run and hide now as it starts to move. So this is the film. In the end, was called Mammy's Dream, because her dream was to become a teacher, that's the shot as it's going over her on the drone. I just thought I'll give you some golden nuggets that I've learned from this whole experience. Take a headset with you. It was really fun. I'm sure you would all do it, but it was really great to take the headset and be able to show the kids and Mammy herself what it is that we were doing. One of the films that they had was actually going up over Monument here in London, and they were absolutely amazed to sort of see what London was like. So that was a really great experience. The preparation and workflow is king. I mean, it was so, the workflow that Surround Vision had organised was just, you know, impeccable. Stitch at the end of the day, nightmare. You've been working in 40-degree heat all day, but actually it was really important. We discovered at the end of one day that there was a big hole in one of our shots, so we had to go back and reshoot it. It's not like living in London where we would, you know, nip out again and go and take that shot again. We had to make sure we had the shots we needed. Overheating was a really big issue for us with our cameras because, you know, it was really hot and we're using them a lot. So bring backup cameras and crowd control. It's really, really important to try and get somebody to control the crowd. As you could see, we had a lot of kids there. So I think I'm running out of time, aren't I? Yes. So just really quickly, we used it at this gala dinner. You can see they're all the posh people with their cardboards, and they loved it. It was really, and they've had a really, really high conversion rate. So the future, I would say, just needs to be more interactive, and that's kind of where I'm trying to look now to make sure that we all are as interactive as the gaming industry, because clearly I feel like we've sort of fallen behind a little bit. So those are contact details of myself and the other people working on this shoot. If you want to talk to me about anything else, then that would be lovely. And if you want to watch the film, you can see it there. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that was amazing. I don't want to talk to you more about that, but I better, yeah, in fact, should we squeeze in one question? Although I said running out of time, I realised that we hadn't mic'd up the next person.
Okay,
no,
cool.
So it's our fault, you're in the right,
Oh, good.
And that gentleman there has his hand up. Do you mind just moving, as I'm not sure where the handheld mic is?
Yeah, sure. I'm interested when you're in a remote location like that, is power an issue, and what was the plan for it?
Yeah, amazing. Again, you know, the production company was really incredible. We just had a whole load of batteries, and then we had a battery recharger, and you can use the car, you know, to sort of recharge. So we were constantly doing that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, once you have to obviously make sure that wherever you're staying, you've got power, and you have to recharge overnight. But you need a lot of batteries, and then batteries to charge the other batteries, if you see what I mean. Yeah.